Most of us have this nagging feeling that our smartphones are just destroying our memory. And let's be honest, there's some truth to that. But what if I told you that the very same device could actually protect your brain, maybe even make your memory sharper? It sounds kind of crazy, I know. But it actually happened to a guy named Daniel, a 68-year-old man whose phone didn't wreck his memory. It ended up saving it.
So let's just get right into it. Do our phones really destroy our memory? I mean, the endless scrolling, the constant notifications, yeah, it can absolutely feel like our brains are getting totally fried. But is the phone itself the real enemy here, or is it all about how we're using it? That's the big question we're going to tackle.
And really, this is what it all boils down to. That phone in your pocket can be a distraction machine, right? It encourages you to just numb out with endless scrolling. Or it can be a little brain gym you carry around with you, actively strengthening your ability to recall things. The only difference, the only thing that separates the two, is intention.
To really get this, we've got to talk about Daniel. His story is so powerful because his struggle with memory is something a lot of us, or maybe our parents or grandparents, can seriously relate to. See, he thought his memory was just fading away because of his age, but the real reason was something else entirely. This right here, this was Daniel's everyday reality. And it wasn't just walking into rooms and forgetting why. It was names just slipping away a second after he heard them. It was appointments he'd completely miss. Conversations started to feel blurry, like he was physically there, but his mind just wasn't fully present. So because of all this, Daniel started to believe something that's actually pretty dangerous. He just accepted it. He thought, well, I'm getting old. This is just what happens. And you know what? His family, his friends, even his doctor kind of thought the same thing at first, but they were all wrong. Okay, so here's the key takeaway. The real enemy wasn't Daniel's age, it was inactivity. Just think about your brain like a muscle. Seriously, if you stop going to the gym, your muscles get weak, right? Well, it's the same with your brain. If you stop challenging your memory, it starts to fade. Not because you're old, but because you've stopped asking it to put in the work. So once Daniel understood that inactivity was the real problem, everything started to change. He learned how to turn that device in his pocket from a total distraction into a really powerful tool. And he did it with 5 super simple daily habits. Let's break them down. All right, let's start with habit number 1. Instead of grabbing his phone and scrolling first thing in the morning, Daniel started doing something called the 2-minute memory note. And the absolute best part, you don't need any special apps for this. None. He just opened the basic notes app that comes with every phone, and he would write down just 3 simple things. First, what did I do yesterday? Second, what's one name I heard? And third, what's one thing I want to remember today? That's it. So simple, but wow, so powerful. So why does something so simple work so well? Well, this little exercise fires up your working memory. That's the system that kind of holds information in your head temporarily. It's like your brain's scratch pad, and it's often the first part of our memory to get a little weak. Forcing your brain to do this simple recall every day actually strengthens the pathways that make it easier to pull memories out later on. Daniel's second habit is just as easy. It involved his phone's voice recorder. But he wasn't using it for meetings or to-do lists. Nope. He used it to tell a quick 60-second story every single day. He might just describe what he did that morning, or a funny memory, or even just something interesting he noticed. And here's why speaking out loud is such a game changer. When you speak, your brain has to do a few things all at once. It has to recall the information, it has to organize it into actual words, and then it has to deliver it in a way that makes sense. That combination of tasks creates way stronger neural connections than just thinking about something or even writing it down. Okay, next up, brain games. But wait, here's a really critical point. Not all brain games are good for you. In fact, a lot of those fast, stressful ones that make you feel all rushed, they can actually be harmful. So Daniel learned to focus on slow, thoughtful games instead. This chart breaks it down perfectly. Over on the right, you've got the bad for your memory games. They're stressful, they're super fast, and they're all about your reaction time. But over on the left, you see the good stuff. These games feel engaging, they're slow-paced, and they focus on logic and thinking. The goal isn't to win. The goal is to think. Now, this next habit was actually the one that surprised Daniel the most. Every single day, he'd open his photo gallery, scroll back, and just pick one random old photo, and he'd just sit with it for a minute or two. And looking at that photo, he'd ask himself 3 really simple questions to reconnect with that moment. Where was I? Who was with me? And what happened right after this picture was taken? So why is this so effective? Well, this simple act is actually training your episodic memory. That's the memory of your life's experiences, right? It's the collection of stories that make you, well, you. When you regularly revisit these moments, you're basically telling your brain, hey, this matters. Don't let this one fade. And that strengthens the very memories that shape who you are. Daniel's final habit was a huge one. He made a conscious choice to replace mindless scrolling with intentional learning. So each day, he'd find and watch one short educational video on a topic that was completely new to him. You see, learning something brand new, especially as we get older, sends this incredibly powerful signal to the brain. It says, hey, we're still active here. Keep building new connections. That little moment of curiosity, that, I didn't know that feeling, that is literally when your brain wakes up and starts to grow again. So what happened to Daniel? After just a few weeks of these simple habits, he started to notice that the mental fog he'd been living in for so long was finally starting to lift. So now, let's talk about how you can start your own training. Look, it wasn't some dramatic overnight miracle. It was a slow, gradual return to clarity. He started remembering names again. He knew why he walked into a room. And it all started with that tool in his pocket. The same tool that most people are convinced is destroying their brain. Your smartphone can be a distraction, or it can be a tool. It really is that simple. The choice is yours. So here's your first step, your challenge. For the next week, just try one of these habits. That's it, just one. Pick one and see how your mind responds. Because the truth is, your brain is still growing, it's still learning, and it is still capable of so much more than you might think. The only question left is, which tool are you going to pick up first?